Welcome back to Mid State Sports Corner. We are officially now just in the new day and age of podcasting. We're doing it all virtually. Brett's got his own studio. I'm still working on mine, but I'm in my home office at the moment. So, Brett with 1T, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, man. How are you?
Doing well. I do have a cool little tidbit to talk about with you. So, I was at the alumni high school hockey tournament all weekend. And last night, I was just sitting there talking with one of the guys. I've seen him up at the rink. I've never personally met him before. And then until last night, and then he goes, "Hey, you're the one half of that podcast, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am." He's like, "Dude, I love what you guys are doing. I love looking at your guys' stuff." He's like, "My favorite thing is what you guys did with Karstens and the U of M Flint team."
Mm.
He was like, I'm a big fan of Spin Chicklets, and I love that they do that with college teams. So I thought it was really cool that you guys did the local one and all
Yeah.
things. I was like, yeah. And I feel like come next season, we're going to do more because now they're adding that D3 team. So they'll have 2 teams next year. So we'll do more with them next year about it.
They actually
So it's
asked
cool to know that our name is around.
yeah, and they asked us to do another one for them actually. I was talking with one of the assistant coaches here. I was at the Firebirds game. They were still playing, and he had asked us to do another one. He said they got a lot of feedback and said that the stands were starting to be filled now. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the product on the ice, but he also said that it was a lot to do with the show and how we kind of highlighted it and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool to get that recognition, and I had a great time doing it. And that Spit and Chicklets kind of style is what we were trying to go for anyway. If
Mm-hmm.
you recall, that's kind of what we talked about, that Spit and Chicklets University or Chicklets U or whatever they call it.
Chicklets U is what it's called. Yeah.
Chicklets U. And so it was kind of what we were trying to go for anyway. So that's really cool.
And then they do obviously, they're redoing one of the locker rooms for the D3 team that they have coming in.
Yeah.
I was in it this weekend. They're about 75% of the way done with it, I'd say.
That's super cool. Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good opportunity for us and for them to be able to get back in there and do it again for sure.
Another
It's gonna be
thing that
cool.
we could do, because that the USPHL Premier League, Flint is getting a team this coming season.
Mhm.
And I personally know the owner. I grew up playing hockey with him. So
Okay.
maybe I can get with him and we can maybe, if they have something going on in Iceland, we could get with him and do one there too.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah,
Because
that'd be
if
cool.
we can get it, by the way, if we can get into Powers, I got a preview their locker room yesterday. It's damn near an NHL locker room.
Really?
Not
It's
even
getting
kidding.
crazier and crazier by the year, it seems like all these high school and,
Like, not even
you
kidding.
know
It was
yeah.
it's like,
Look
this
at
is for a high
Grand
school
Blanc
hockey
football
team.
stadium.
It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's exciting stuff, though. It's all the money. There's a lot of money to go
Yeah.
around, and people don't know what to do with it, so they put it in high school football and hockey stadiums, so
But let's jump into what the people actually truly care about listening to.
that's true.
The NFL draft finally happens. Obviously, you've heard me gripe about it before. The fact that we got to wait 3 months after the season ends for this draft to happen is just stupid.
Right.
But it finally happened. And I will admit, this is probably the least amount I've ever watched of the draft. I obviously watched the first round. I usually watch the second and third on Friday, but I didn't.
Mhm.
But I watched the first round. So let's break down what the Lions did. I've heard a lot of good things about all these insiders, whatever, blah 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 blah. The Lions had a good draft,
Yeah,
is what
I
I've
gave
been
them a
hearing.
B overall.
So let's start it off round one. And what we've been saying for a while, especially now that Taylor Decker's out, I think Glasgow's out as well, right?
Mhm.
You need help on the offensive line.
Yeah.
What'd they do? Go get a tackle.
Yeah.
And a badass one, I might
Mhm.
say.
Yeah, so Blake Miller is a guy that started a lot. He's played a lot of football
Mhm.
games. He doesn't miss games. Also, his availability is his biggest asset. The dude missed like 2 practices his entire career. And so the Lions get a plug and play right tackle. Penei Sewell moves to the left side. And now you've got Mahogany and Ratledge. And then you've got Cade Mays, who was a free agent offseason acquisition to solidify that line now. And so all of a sudden, you're not asking a guy that played college left tackle to go play right tackle. You've got a guy that's already a right tackle. No need to transition
Because
and
Sewell's
stick him
moving to
right
the
there on the
left.
line. Yeah,
Yeah, they already said Sewell's going to move to the left.
right.
I'd be surprised if this guy's not starting week one.
Oh, I fully expect him to. 100%. Yeah, he looks good.
So, Butch, I loved the pick, especially with what was available. I don't know. Caleb Downs was falling a little bit, and I'm just like, I don't
Yeah.
think I would have minded it.
Yeah, but the Lions did the right thing. They stood pat, and there was a lot of rumblings before the draft about them moving up to get somebody they wanted, but there started to be a run on the tackles there, and I started to think, man, are the Lions going to miss out on one of the top 6 options? But quite frankly, I think they got one of the best options. Like I said, they got a guy that starts all of his games. He's everything you want. He's a leader. He's everything the Lions ask for out of their players, and so I think it was a fantastic pick myself.
So then jump into their second pick, which they traded up for. And then what was the second need? We said they need some help on the D line too. So they go get edge rusher from Ann Arbor, Derek Moore.
Love that pick. I mean, the dude is maybe a little undersized for an edge position player, but he plays so strong. He had double-digit sacks last year, and he's only gotten better every single year in college. And of course, he played behind some pretty big names there in the beginning. But, for him to come in and kind of have the year that he had, and, Michigan had a lot going on last year. No doubt about it, off, behind the scenes and everything. And this team still won 9 games. And a lot of that is because of the defense. And a lot of that defense pressure, was because of Derek Moore. And so I really like what he's doing. I really like where they went with that pick. And I think he was very much a guy they had to go up and grab.
Which I loved it because he was always one of my favorite players on defense. Seems like he was always getting by the line. He was always in that backfield, which is obviously something the Lions need. They need to give Hutch some help. He can only do so much, and especially now that he's progressing more in his career, that he's getting doubled a lot more. So that's why when people say like Hutch isn't what he used to be, it's just like you do realize it's because he's got 2 or 3 guys on him every single time. Because he's that good. You give him a single, he's going to get back there and make it happen. But
yeah, I definitely am not upset about that pick at all.
No. So then in turn, because they traded up to get Derek Moore, or where did their 3rd round pick go?
It was the Isaac TeSlaa trade last year. They gave up two additional thirds last year, so they did not have their 3rd round this year.
So jumping to round 4, another Michigan product, Jimmy Rolder at linebacker, which they do need a linebacker help with. Anzalone's now gone as well. Malcolm Rodriguez is back, Jack Campbell. So you did need a little bit of more depth back there. So getting Jimmy Rolder in the top 5 rounds is a good pick in my part. Because I did actually, just before we jumped on, I saw a key stat that because someone's quote is like, Jimmy Rolder's terrible at football, whatever.
Nope.
But no, in his career, he played 900 snaps and he only missed his tackle 4% of the time.
Yeah.
Which was exactly 99th percentile.
Yeah. Exactly what I was going to say is like Rolder is a surefire tackler. Everybody gripes about his 1 year starting in college, but again, same thing as like Derek Moore. Do they play to get behind some really, really good football players? And so that's going to happen in a premier program like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Texas. Like these guys have Oregon. You've got guys that come out and shine in their 4th and 5th years, but it's not because they weren't good the first 3. It's just a natural war of attrition on the depth chart. And Jimmy Rolder, when given the opportunity, was all over. I mean, his biggest and best game was against Michigan State, double-digit tackles. I mean, he had pass deflections, interceptions. I mean, the dude was all over. And he really kind of shown what he could do. But he is a gritty, hard-nosed, again, leader, vocal. Same something the Lions always seem to tackle with their players. And I think, it may have surprised a lot of the outside national pundits for a guy like Jimmy Rolder. And there was definitely some other players available that I also expected. But Jimmy Rolder is a good fit for this team. And I think that if Brad really felt like us Michigan fans know he can play and felt that he can play that way for the Lions, and I have no problem with that pick.
And then jumping down to round 5, go get a corner, which obviously, they need corner help as well. I don't know much about this guy, Keith Abney from Arizona State.
Yeah, their favorite pick of the draft. Yep.
Really? Okay. Good to know.
So he was projected to go top 100 by a lot of the mock drafts, national gurus, if you will. And for him to be this far down in the draft is an absolute steal for the Lions. This guy had no touchdowns given up last year.
Yep. I was just reading that. He's an all Big 12. And 72 targets faced, gave up no touchdowns.
Right. And so this is a guy that, again, being on Arizona State may not have gotten the same love as some of the other players around him, but this dude can ball. And I think this guy has actually got a pretty solid chance of getting some starting minutes from the Detroit Lions this year, especially with some of the safety issues, that we've got with Joseph and Branch. So now you got some guys moving around in that secondary until they know what we're going to have there. And this is a guy that you can almost plug and play right away. And he's got some incredible ball instincts, similar to my, Miles Frazier comparison a couple of, the last draft there. Like, I don't know if you recall, but I said the same thing. Like, this is a guy that played on a good program. Remember, they've been at the CFP now. And so this is a guy that's been there, done that, seen that, and he plays a good brand of football. And for him to get picked this low was really a big steal. And like I said, was my favorite pick of the draft for the Lions.
So you look at it in hindsight, their first 4 picks, they addressed each hole that they needed. Yeah. They didn't go try to get someone because someone was there, whatever. No, they addressed their needs, and which is something you want to see from a GM and a front office in general. Just because you filled the 4 holes that you were really looking at, in your top 4 picks.
Sure. Yeah.
And then jumping down round 5, they did grab a wide receiver, but obviously, we got Amon-Ra, JMO, and Tesla. So it's
That was my surprise pick of the draft. I think
yeah,
to trade up for Kendrick Law, though I think he's a good player, he's a gadget player. They view him as, not a lot of people watch Kentucky football, and that's just the facts. They watch their basketball program. So a lot of people don't know about it, but he's a very good player. You got to think that we did lose Khalif Raymond this offseason, and although we may have signed Greg Dortch from free agency, they needed somebody to kind of fill this role a little more long term. And so Kendrick Law is more of a future pick than a this year pick. But to me, I think they could have went a couple different other ways than picking him. Now, I do understand the fit and the need from Brad, and I trust, his process. I mean, if you remember, Amon-Ra was drafted pretty low as well, and he turned out to be a pretty damn good
yeah.
football player. So I get it, and I'm not going to necessarily knock him, but to me, it was my biggest surprise for the Lions.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like, especially with the wide receiver room that you already have, is what it is. But to round out their draft picks, they go to D line again with a D tackle and an
Mhm.
edge, Skylar Gill Howard from Texas Tech and Tyree West from Tennessee. So obviously, just more depth picks. It seems like, because as we've seen in the most recent years,
Yep.
that line gets depleted very quickly. So adding just a couple more, like, who knows if they'll be reserves or practice squad, whoever, but they'll be there.
Well,
That's all that
if you
matters.
look at, the draft that the Lions had and then their undrafted free agent haul, Brad
I was
Holmes
just about to pull
looks
that
like
up.
looks like he has actually heard some of the outside noise about needing edge help and defensive help, and the dude's gone crazy, in that regard. And so all I can say is at a very minimum, you've got competition in that room now, and you've got some ability for a couple of guys to stand up. Similar to what you got out of Al-Quadin Muhammad last year, I think you could find somebody like that in the mix of players that we've gotten now out of college and, free agency. I think you're going to find it. Hopefully, at least you hope that you get a diamond in the rough. But nonetheless, it's really banking a lot of production from young, proven players overall in the edge room specifically. And so that is one of the areas of concern that I have until it's proven on paper for the Detroit Lions. Now, granted, like I said, linebacking core has been reinforced with the Rolder selection and who we already had. Defensive back room is going to be a little bit stronger as far as the corners go. Safeties, we're unsure, but it's that edge room that I still think, although they've got a plethora of options right now, you got to find out who's going to rise above the rest, and hopefully we can find a couple to help Hutch out this year.
And overall, I like the draft. Now that I really look at it and break it down, like, they address the holes. So, and that's all I ask for as a fan, is just address the holes and go from there. And they did that also in free agency as well. So that's a good sign. So let's talk about University of Michigan players taking the draft. So obviously we've already talked about Derek Moore and
Rolder.
Rolder. Thank you. Blanked for a second. Klein went to Houston, which I think is a good spot for him. CJ Stroud, obviously quarterback, he's been playing well. It is a good. Houston's an upcoming team. Good spot for him. Jay Sean Barham went to
He's a big
Dallas.
target too, yeah. Jay Shot Barham, good pick as well.
And I always have a soft spot for tight ends at Michigan because they always shine. Because I
Right.
mean, look what Loveland did in his rookie year.
Yeah.
So, and
Even Schoonmaker, I mean,
Klein was
yeah,
damn near a carbon copy of Loveland.
right.
So, and then yeah, Barham to the Cowboys. Let's see who
Mm.
else.
And he's got another Michigan
Sees
player there with Barham. Has got Rashawn Gary there with him now in Dallas.
Yep. And then so I did see Zavada signed to the Giants today.
Who was it?
Was it
I'm
the
sorry.
Giants? I think he went to the Giants.
Who was it?
Zavada.
Nevada. Yeah.
Which
Yeah, that's
which
gonna be cool.
doesn't surprise me. If he went to the draft after the previous year, I think he actually gets taken. But because he did struggle this year,
He
and that
struggled
had to
this
have
year,
ruined
but
his
had an
stock.
excellent year prior. So yeah, I agree. He would have
Yes,
been he would have been drafted, I think.
I truly do think so. Max Bredesen went to Minnesota.
Yeah, that was
Rayshon
pretty
Benny
cool.
went to Baltimore. So in total, 6 players of this team were drafted this year. Rounds 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7.
A little bit lower count, but still some really good, solid football players. And then you had your, again, undrafted free agents. You had a couple of those out there as well. Demond Payne went to Kansas City, for example. So that's another defensive lineman. So I mean, there's actually quite a few more Michigan connections out there now. But well, again, with all the issues this team had, it just goes to show you the kind of level of talent this team still had out there and why they were able to win those 9 games despite all the crazy crap going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. So overall, not bad, not bad. probably next year you'll see a few more get taken and all things. But let's jump across Woodward over to LCA, talk about the Pistons a little bit.
Yeah, little
I don't like it. I don't
concerning.
like it.
Yeah.
And they're not doing well at the current moment either because they're in
So
game four right now, down
the
2-1, which is just wild.
yeah.
And it is commercial. Can't give you a very live update score at the moment, but I know they were not up by a lot.
So the thing is like Jalen Duren has been a complete no-show. He's pretty much played himself out of a max contract. I mean, currently they're up by 7 right now in game 4. So, I mean, thing is Jalen Duren's been a no-show. He's completely played himself out of max contract, and a lot of the biggest questions that the Pistons had going into this series or this postseason in general was where's the secondary scoring going to come from? Mm, aside from Cade Cunningham, and it should be Jalen Duren. Is an all-star big man. He's played really well this year overall, but the problem is this big stretch that he had to end the season was because Cade was out with a collapsed lung, and so he got a
Mhm.
lot of the lion's share of minutes and played most of the game, and his numbers reflected that. But let's not forget who's the main facilitator on this team, and that's Cade Cunningham, and so
Mhm.
you have to be able to work alongside him. And he's just they've really pressured Jalen a lot. He's a young player, susceptible to this, honestly, but he's a young player, and he's kind of withered in the playoffs and played really soft. And so it sucks because JB Bickerstaff really, prides himself on a defensive unit. And this team's gotten so good on the defensive side. It's how they won so many games this year. But this team has not played good defense. And that also starts with Jalen Duren, amongst others. But it's been tough sledding. The Orlando matches up very well with the Pistons.
What's a bigger collapse if the Pistons end up losing this series to the Magic or the Red Wings?
I would just say for the sheer nature of going into it as number 1 seed, I would say the Pistons is a bigger collapse, but I think us hockey fans knowing the Red Wings and where they should have been this year with kind of
Mhm.
where everything's trended, that to me is just a gut punch. But I think if you're going to look at it from an outside perspective, I think the Pistons would be a bigger collapse, winning 60 regular season games out of 82.
And then losing as the 1 seed to the 8 seed Magic.
Yeah. That would be a disappointment for sure.
That's just
It's
like
tough look. Tough look.
that's pure choke. I'm sorry, it's pure choke. If you're a 1 seed and you lose to the 8 seed, that's a pure choke.
100%.
I know, like in hockey, like it can happen. Like it can happen. It happens in hockey more often than any other sports. But basketball, there's a lot more. There's a lot more parity between those two teams of a 1 seed and an 8 seed. So it would
Yeah.
take an epic collapse for
Yeah,
and
it's
Orlando just
it's
hit a
pretty
3.
sad. I hope they can figure it out, and find a way to win the game and get themselves back in it because I think they go down 3-1 to this team.
They're done.
Forget
I'm
it.
sorry, they're done.
Yeah, they're done. I mean,
Because
that's
if
just
they've already played like this much ass, what makes you
right,
think it's gonna change?
right. So,
So it's just
um,
meh,
what do you think of the way the Tigers have played so far this year?
inconsistent. The pitching hasn't been the best.
What hasn't?
The pitching.
Well, the starting pitching's been pretty good. It's the bullpen that's been shaky at
Shocker.
times.
Shocker. But at
Yeah,
the
and
same
their
time, you'll
offense
get it's the same old song and dance we've been talking about the last couple of years. You get a good start from a starter and the bats go cold.
every time.
It's the same old song and dance. It's getting ridiculous at this point.
They are still in contention very easily for first place because the AL Central sucks, and so it's just going to be natural that they're going to hopefully be in it all year. But make no mistake about it, this team does have some flaws. They got some high strikeout probability guys in Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and Kerry Carpenter. If it weren't for Kevin McGonigal, this team would be really bad on offense.
And here's my thing about McGonagall. Yes, he's a highly touted prospect, all the things. At the same time, he's a rookie.
Mhm.
I'm
And
gonna
he's
bring
he's
back a
damn
name
near the
for
top
you.
of the stat sheet for the Tigers.
I'm gonna bring back a name for you that I hope it doesn't go this route, obviously. Chris Shelton.
I knew you were going there with that.
Because you remember that April he had in
Yep.
2006?
I
And
was at a
then
couple of the games in April, I remember.
April, May killed it. Then nothing the rest of the year. So
He
I
looked
hope
like
he doesn't go
he was
down that
good.
road because obviously he came out guns blazing,
Yep.
which is great.
Yep.
But just please keep it going. Currently, I have the standings pulled up. They're up half a game on the Guardians, and then Twins are right there. White Sox and Royals are also still kind of there as well. So but here's the thing: they're great at home. They suck on the road. 5-12 on the road.
Yeah, right.
And 2 at home.
It doesn't scream World Series contending team. However, I will say that the pitching that this team has starter wise can keep them in any game. The bullpen, hopefully we'll get some reinforcements from Troy Melton and Jackson Jobe at some point this year, but they've got some injuries they've been dealing with and or are coming back from. But this team needs that middle relief option. That's really where they're struggling right now is the middle relief. And as far as the pitching side goes, as far as the bats goes, like I said, they've got way too many guys that are pretenders and not contenders. And so they need to get this strikeout thing figured out. Or, again, it's going to be time to give somebody like Max Clark a shot. That's just
Well,
how it is.
what's tough also is obviously they're a terrible road team right now. They're on their way to Atlanta, who is one of the best teams in baseball.
You
If
know
you're
what?
gonna
This
right
would
the
be a
ship, this would
series
be
of
if you're gonna right the ship, this would be a good series to do it.
it'd be one of those series the Tigers would do that though, right? They'd go out and win 2 or 3 or sweep them and give you all this hope about like, wow, this team's finally figured out, and then go lay an egg and get swept the next series. Like that's
But
how hot and cold
at
it
the
feels
same
like.
time, we're still in April for another 4 days.
100%. Yeah, it's very early. Not looking to overreact, but those are the kind of things that could
No,
happen.
like we're only 29 games in out of
Right.
162.
Right.
But you want to know an interesting tidbit that I'm looking at right now? The Athletics don't have like a first name. They're literally just the Athletics. Every other team's got the Detroit Tigers, Cleveland Guardians. The Athletics are just the Athletics.
Well, I mean, I think we can figure out why that might be, but
Yeah, but it's just like that's so interesting.
yeah.
But
Yeah, what do you think of the hockey playoffs here?
Colorado sweeping LA didn't surprise at me in this absolute slightest. But
Just
one
kept
series
rolling.
that's been super, super entertaining has been Tampa Montreal.
Yeah.
That's been a great series.
Yeah.
And it's getting nasty and I love it.
Yeah.
And then
But you know what? I will
obviously
say
the series of the first round is Minnesota down.
so
Hands down.
can you imagine the Red Wings in place of the Montreal Canadiens and having giving you the same series with Tampa Bay?
That's the thing. Like I've watched some of these games, and it's like the intensity and all the things, and how often we've seen the Red Wings lack intensity.
That's
Like
my point
I really don't think I could see them like showing up.
right, like, it's like
Which
one of
is
those things where it's
just,
like, we want them in there, but, like, they don't belong, and it's clearly obvious.
and I think Eisman's gotten the point of that because this is 3 years now where this has happened. When push comes to shove, they fucking go into a shell.
Yeah,
And with his press conference of there's the one line that has just stuck out to me. We just need better players.
right.
So with that being said, I truly do think there's going to be some shakeups this offseason. You can't say a comment like that and put out the 90% of the same roster next year.
Yeah, I
I think
agree.
the only thing that probably won't change is obviously the top D pair and the top 6 of forwards. Other than that, I think the bottom 6 of forwards and the other 4D are free game.
Yeah,
Talbot
I
won't
mean,
be back.
I agree.
Talbot
There's
won't be
gotta be
back.
a lot of switching.
Kosa will be up next year. With Augustine going to Grand Rapids, Kosa will be up next year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Well, him and Gibby will be a good solid duo, to be honest with you.
But another name to think of is that Michael Pistava.
Yeah, just gonna
He's
say
been
that.
playing very well.
There's a chance
So
that he might get called up over Casa the way he's played, not gonna lie.
I think that's going to be a whole preseason training camp thing.
Yeah, but you know what? The kid's played very well.
Because I'd be surprised if they bring Talbot back or sign another goalie.
They will not. You gotta remember, they also got
They can't at this point. You got two
no.
goalies
Talbot's been so
in
bad.
the system that can go up with Pistava and Kosa.
Well,
Because
you've also got
with
Nylander.
Augustine coming up, he's got to push one of them out.
Yeah, remember you got Nylander, Casa, Pistava, and Augustine. And, I mean, the Red Wings seem primed to trade a goalie prospect to an team that might have an offensive help that we might seek. I
That's an option.
don't know who that is right now, but I think you have to go and talk to a team like Ottawa for Brady Tkachuk. And I think you need to talk to them about Brady and you say, look, you guys have the Allmark situation. Obviously, you guys are a good team when he plays and is right, but he's had the mental health struggles recently. And I think for them to have a solid backup in net in one of these goalie prospects would be a good thing. Now, trading away their best player, or arguably their best player, would be no doubt a tough pill to swallow for them. But I think he would give the Red Wings something they lack severely. But also, I think the Red Wings giving up a goalie prospect when they've got 4 options, and it's going to take more than just that to go get somebody like that, I think would be a solid move. Now, I know that's going to probably draw some ire from the hockey community, but that's the kind of move that you're looking to shake up this offseason if you're Steve Yzerman. It's got to be that DeBrincat type of move he did a couple of seasons ago. It's got to be somebody that's going to have an impact on this team. It can't be these fringe, aging veterans like Patrick Kane or even like the Vincent Trocheck situation. He's a little bit older too, right? Like you don't want to go out and get somebody like you need somebody a little bit younger, a little bit of still got a little bit of fire in their soul, and it's got to help change the makeup of this team.
I truly do think this offseason is gonna be pretty damn good. I think there's gonna be some big shakeups happening because you look at the Toronto situation with Austin Matthews.
Sure.
That's not.
That's not a good one.
And then obviously Brady Kachuk's name's getting tossed around as well. So Jason Robertson's name's talked about a lot.
You could also talk
I have a
about
feeling some
Thomas,
big names are getting moved.
Robert Thomas in St. Louis. Like they got to be frustrated with Bennington as well. Same situation there. Red Wings could offer them a goalie prospect and possibly snag Jordan Thomas. Robert Thomas, excuse me, Robert Thomas out of St. Louis. And he's got term on his deal still. So like that's another thing that helps.
He's signed till 32.
Yeah, and that's something Yzerman covets with some of the other deals he's tried and not done in the past, and so I think that would be a name to watch as well with what the Red Wings have available.
I don't know. I'm just thinking like he finally goes and gets someone at the deadline and people fucking bitch about it. Like you've been asking him to do something like this. So he does
I
it.
don't mind the Justin Falk acquisition. I just don't love the price, to be honest with you. I didn't think he was
I
worth a
mean,
first round pick, and I understand that's how the market was dictated. I'm just saying internally, like Falk's not a first round pick type of player
no,
to be
not anymore. Back in 2018, yes.
yeah, 4 or
But
5 years ago, absolutely. But now, like
but
to me, that's
now
an
it's
oversight.
well, I think we've already discussed this before. It's just like, can you imagine what the price tag was for Robert Thomas or Trocheck if that's what Justin Falk got?
Well, yeah, it sounds like they really overpriced themselves out for Vinny Trocheck if you were New York, and so I don't know what the hell they were thinking there. But yeah, I'm sure Robert Thomas was multiple firsts, NHL ready or current roster player or two,
It was 1000%.
and it's like I don't know. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you're willing to toss in a goalie prospect there, maybe a roster guy or a fringe roster guy, say like a Danielson or, somebody of that area, and then a couple of picks, like, does it get it done? Probably. And at that point, you've got your C behind Dylan Larkin, and you've lengthened that
Hmm.
lineup and you've pushed everybody down and you made your bottom six better by getting a player like that, which is I
Hmm.
think exactly how the Red Wings need to approach this. They need to solidify the top six and it will inevitably push players down the lineup because right now their biggest problem is they've got players playing too far up on the roster and they're not proportioned correctly, and you've got guys like Rasmussen, Appleton out there that are just duds. They're not doing anything. JVR cooled way off. He didn't do anything. Like Patrick Kane, although was a point producer, doesn't play defense. Like you have to start to think of some of these things and how the roster is constructed. And like I still am not saying we don't need Patrick Kane back. I think it's gonna be hard to replace that point production because the market's a little thin this year. But it's this, it's okay to have Patrick Kane if you don't have three other Patrick Kanes out there that don't play defense, right? But when he is one of another four, it's like you have to do something different. I think Eisenman definitely got the hint this year. He looked very frustrated in his presser, and he should have been.
Yeah. That being said, that was a quick episode. But I think I got to jump off. I'm losing all my jump rate. I've had a long weekend. We got to get ready for Wednesday. It's a big night Wednesday for us.
Yeah, we got a huge night Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, thanks for tuning in to Mitten State Sports Corner. I am Brett with one T.
Brett with two. Y'all have a great night. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.